Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimberley from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Welcome to episode 69 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today the one and only, the gold digger girl, Kimberley Olson. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. We are live in the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host with big smiles here, Kimberley Olson. Kimberley, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm so excited to have you on. There's a lot of layers to you as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a wife. So we're going to break them all down and get to know you a little bit better today. How I always start off with all our guests is just to get to know Kimberley, where you are in your life right now, what are you currently doing, and then we'll just let the conversation flow from there. So what's up?
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. A lot of layers. My husband would say the same thing. He's still trying to figure me out 11 years later. So I grew up north of Detroit. So we used to go to Windsor. We would cross the bridge and get into Canada when we were not really supposed to be there. So I'm very familiar with your neck of the woods.
Awesome.
And moved to Texas about a decade ago. I'm an outdoor sunshine person. So my husband is too. So we came down here as soon as we could and built a family here. And I was in a situation where we had our babies really close together. Our second one was kind of a surprise. And I didn't do so well with the first.
What's the age gap with them?
A year and a half.
That's what mine is too. A year and a half.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
so you know what that was like. I didn't do so well with the first one. I struggled with postpartum. So when we found out about the second one, I was kind of having a hard time with it, coping, but had a great job. We just built our dream home, 2 new vehicles, the whole thing, right? The American dream. And when Elise was coming along, I was 8.5 months pregnant. I was let go from my 6-figure job, and she was right around the corner. So it wasn't like I could go out and interview and do all that. So I do have a background in fitness and nutrition. So while I was unemployed for 5 months, I was running boot camps in my backyard with the baby strapped on my chest. Like I was writing curriculum for health clubs. Like I was just hustling, trying to make it work, and we couldn't do it. So we cashed in our 401k, put everything on credit cards, and I went into a pretty dark time. I've always, struggled with alcohol. It's been in my family on both sides of the chain for a long time. So it just kind of became my way to cope. And so I wasn't doing awesome, but I decided, you know what, we got to pay the bills. So I took a job locally. It was a 2.5-hour commute. And I was making about half of what I was making before. And I missed my baby's first steps. I would FaceTime into doctor's appointments because I was on commission. So I couldn't really, miss work. And I had a lot of mom guilt. So kind of that vicious cycle of using alcohol to cope and, take the edge off. But I ran into a friend and this girl was so persistent. This is why follow-up is key. If you're an entrepreneur, follow up. She was so persistent. She kept messaging me, girl, you should come do what I'm doing. I'm in network marketing. And I was like, oh, I do not want anything to do with that, right? Like, I don't want to be that person. And she kept following up. She's like, oh my gosh, like I've replaced my income. And she had this new car. And so I ran into her at a girls event and she said, look, it's helping the children. And like, that did it for me. Like this product was like helping children with alopecia grow their hair back. And that was it. Like, I'm a helper. Like I want to save the world. And I was like, wait, this is helping people. So I tried the product, I fell in love. And so we were on the debt-free Dave Ramsey plan. Like there was no money to start a business. And so I said, I'm putting this on my secret credit card that my husband doesn't know about. Girl, you've got 30 days for me to make this money back. When that statement comes in, I better be able to pay it off or I'm out. So I was highly coachable. I was very hungry. I was very driven. Got in, made my initial investment back. I made $1,000, $2,000 a month. And then I realized I was self-sabotaging. So what I would do is, have a hard day at work, get kiddos dinner, all that. And I would have a glass of wine with dinner, glass of wine during dinner, glass of wine after dinner. And I couldn't really like crush it. The only time I could work on my business was really early in the morning or really late at night. And I just kept self-sabotaging. So I enlisted professional help, found a friend or a friend referred this gal that was a therapist, life coach, Reiki healer, and hypnotherapist. Like the whole thing. And I went into intense work with her. It was all remote, but I mean, I wanted to change my family tree, right? Like I was sick of us not being able to pay the bills. I was missing all the things, and I was all in. So I did everything she said, and it took about 6 weeks, but I reprogrammed my subconscious mind. So instead of waking up every day feeling guilt and shame and just all the things, I started waking up feeling confident and I could do this. And I was a good person. And August 1st of 2017 was my first day of sobriety and haven't touched a drop of alcohol since.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And what happened is my life completely transformed because I was able to have that confidence that I could do it. Like everything's figure outable, right? Like,
100%.
So yeah. And so I didn't have a social media account. So in the fall of 2017, everyone was saying, and you've learned this, everyone was saying, get online, do videos. So I had 250 friends on Facebook, no Instagram account. And I started going live every week. Like I was talking about waking up with lemon water and natural deodorant. Like I had no clue, but I kept coming back and showing up. And I started paying attention. People were like, will you help us lose weight? Let's set goals. And I was like, yes, my background is nutrition. I can do this. So I started a Facebook group and I got to know every single person. And like what we talked about before we started, I thought I just led with value. I just served. I didn't even know what I was going to do with these people, but I'm like, I'm going to help you reach your goals. So that's how it started.
I'm gonna dive in there one second.
Yeah, for sure.
I just did a video. I'm doing these little videos, just like you. I'm doing these little videos. I'm trying to come up with them, and I recorded a little video in my office today, and it's actually talking exactly what you're talking about. You started off with, like I said, 250 Facebook followers, and you started just feeding it out. You didn't focus on the certain results, the current results, because if you did, you would have failed. And a lot of people are so scared of failure, they don't think of the long haul. And I use a metaphor of the bamboo tree where it takes 3 to 5 years to grow underground, and then it spurts up within 30 to 60 days, it spurts up 90 feet.
It's amazing.
And it's just that metaphor is so important for people to understand. It's the long haul. It's impacting one person at a time. I had a guest on, Evan Carmichael, and how I found Evan Carmichael. And he's a huge YouTube guru and all this stuff. And how I had him, the guy's got like 3 million subscribers on YouTube. It's insane. And how I had him, how I found him was he was doing a live Instagram chat, and he had some lady pop on. She's like, and she was talking. She's like, Evan, you don't know who I am, but I watched one of your videos 6 years ago. She goes, and you impacted me so much that after I turned that video off, I changed my life. I was an alcoholic, and she changed her life, and she started focusing. She was on the video. She goes, I just wanted to come back and thank you. And then Evan was quiet for a second. He went back to find that video, and he only had on that video, I think he said he had 100 and something views. So it was one of the first videos. So if you think about it, 100 something people, reality is views is absolutely nothing in the social media world of nowadays. But if you impact one single person, you've done amazing. So the bare fact that you just kept going within you focus on the growth, not the end result. And then look where you are now. So I just want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you. But you're so right. I'm talking about that all the time. And it's always, if you can let go of the outcome, because I still, to this day, I run a group coaching program, and we do Q&A on Tuesdays. So how do I close 10 people this month? I'm sure. I'm like, you can't go about it that way. You have to say, how can I impact 100 people? And then maybe one of those people will turn out to be a client or a customer. So the mindset shift. And I guess I was ignorant, didn't know. I am wired more that way of, giving, a very giving person. So maybe that's why. But when I was watching, YouTube videos, and I got into a coaching program, obviously, they kept saying, lead with value, create content, right? Content is queen, consistency is king. So if you can just focus on content and not trying to close people, that's what I did, because I didn't even have the skills to close people. So started doing videos every week, and more people are coming. So in 2018, I launched the Gold Digger Girl, because all the people following me were like, hey, you're so real. Like, you keep telling us you don't even know what you're doing, but you're just telling us what's working for you. And we love that. Like, tell us more. So I monetized it. And since then I've grown, my reach is about $1 million per month. We're going to do 1.1 million this year. I was able to quit my job, that horrible job I had 2 years ago. I have a podcast. I have 4 books, 2 are best-selling. I'm a top recruiter in my company. I was recognized as number 2 recruiter this year, which is really interesting because I don't cold message. I don't spam. I don't hound people. I literally looked at every person who's come onto my team. I mentored them in some way. I offered value. I watched their Facebook Live for them and gave them feedback if they asked. I sent them a YouTube training to watch our Facebook Live. And so it all circles back to exactly what you just said. But it's been really wonderful because I keep getting comments from people that, man, you're actually like helping people. And network marketing and direct sales has always gotten such a bad rap for the stuff that's being taught, and it's still being taught. So I'm a huge advocate of this time more than ever. We have got to stop treating people like that. We really want to look at people like, how can I get to know you? How can I help you? Let's collaborate. Let's build a relationship. Because like you said, that one viewer, that one person who digests your content could have end up being someone that you do business with. They become a customer, they refer you, become my best friends I have met on social media.
Do you not find with social media, especially I find with Instagram now, because a lot of the platforms are moving to Instagram now, it's everybody's chasing each other's tail. It's an Instagram marketer trying to sell to an Instagram marketer, trying to pass it to an Instagram marketer. And it's just this constant chase. And the problem is I would say 90% of these individuals that are selling these packages don't have the life experience. They haven't gone through hard work. They haven't built nothing. And this is, we talked before going on air. That's that's another actual reason why I'm developing these programs, stuff like that, because I'm getting a lot of entrepreneurs on my podcast. I'm meeting through social networks, and they have these big coaching businesses, big branding. And when I sit there and I talk to them, they've never built nothing themselves. They've never experienced nothing themselves. I have guys doing coaching father programs. They have a 5-month-old, and what experience they have as a father. So, I mean, it's that growth and experience.
I totally agree with you. And no one's talking about this. And this is why it's important. Yeah. If you can get to, because being an entrepreneur is the school of hard knocks, man. Talk 100%. About grit, personality, grit, and tenacity. I always talk about this. You develop it through the struggle. This is why with parenting, it's so hard, because you're seeing them struggle and you're like, I gotta let them struggle, because if they don't go through that, how are they going to develop those character traits? So if you don't go through it, and like those late nights where you're just like, I don't want to work on this right now, but you have to pull deep inside of you and make it happen. That's how you create it. And that's how you get these breakthroughs and you create something amazing. Well, if you don't go through that, how can you teach that, right? Like, how can you go and grab someone under your wing and teach that? And I think what happens is people are jumping the gun a little bit, and they're like, cool, I'm going to roll this out because I can make money doing it. But then what happens is that person isn't able to mentor properly. So then that student is like, oh, what a waste of money. I just wasted my money. This isn't work. Coaching's horrible. And it's like, no, it's not. It's definitely the most incredible thing I've ever done in my whole life is coach other people.
So where do you see yourself coaching wise? Where do you see yourself growing over the next, say, 2 years, 3 years? Yeah. Because obviously you have a passion for it. You got a big smile on your face. Yeah. I love that. I love that part of it, right?
Well, I finally learned to scale my business. So what that means is I can coach as many students as I want to with the same amount of effort. So I do a group coaching once a week, like I talked about. And of course, I build out the content, the back end, and the modules, and put new stuff in there. But I have coaches now that do the weekly check-ins and hold people accountable. So I have, hundreds of students, probably, 500 students in my programs. And my goal is to get to 5 million next year. And the reason why is because I believe that if I can be a light to these women, it's mostly moms because that's my avatar. But if I can get these moms, feeling more confident, feeling valued, speaking their voices to their spouse, parenting their children. Like, I can't tell you how many moms in my programs are like, oh, my kid, she's had Instagram since she's 12. No, like, you are the mom. You get a say in that. It's your responsibility.
Could I hug you right now?
Yeah, right. It's your responsibility to raise these children. God gave them to you. You were handpicked to be their parents, which you're more passionate about this than anyone I know. God handpicked you to be their parents. So if I can get these moms speaking to their children differently, to their husbands, growing their businesses, their husband's going to show up differently at work. Their kids are going to show up differently around their peers. My daughter is 6.5 and she's in a leadership training program for entrepreneurs. How do you think she's going to be when someone tries to bully her? Like, it's still going to happen, but I'm giving that child a better chance to say, no, like, I know who I am and I'm going to stand up to you. So when I think about why the 5 million next year, I think about that. And I think about the ripple effect I have the ability to make. And it's not about me, building a brand for myself. I want to be a global brand. I think I need to be vocal about that so other women can go, that's okay. It's okay to want to be wealthy. Heck yeah, it's okay. It's awesome. I can take care of my family. I can give wherever I want to. I can impact these other women and have the energy to do it because I'm not exhausted,
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to do. Like, I just want us, honestly, don't you feel like now more than ever, especially everything happening globally, we have the best opportunity in the history
100%.
of entrepreneurship to change the world. We really
and you get, it really separates the strong from the weak when situations like this happen. Because like I said, I deal with entrepreneurs on a global scale as well. And in the last 7 months, when shit hit the fan, my main company, Camor, where we supply, we're complete wholesale. So we design, we manufacture, we sell to the gyms. We sell directly to the gyms. So we have 1,800 gyms right across North America we deal with. 90% of them all close their doors. So it was just like, boom, how am I going to change that? So I spent the time, okay, I got time now. I'm going to restructure our PO system, restructure our wholesale systems. So I spent some time doing that because our staff was laid off at this office. And then my other vacation rental business, they closed the Hills, STA, which is short-term accommodations, were all closed down. So we went 3 months without rentals there. So all these things happen at once. Most people would be like, oh my God, life.
Absolutely.
I started school again, which I never thought at 43. I started my podcast.
Awesome.
I upped my coaching business. And we had a 3.5-year plan to build a resort up in Muskoka, Canada. And we're going to be done this spring by May. So I literally sped it up. I literally sped it up almost 2 years.
2 years.
So I literally just went overdrive on everything. And because of that,
I love that.
Because of that, I'm sitting there now and like, I'm so far ahead now. I'm literally, I've sped up my career like 5 years in this like 7-8 month period because I just put my foot on the gas and let's go.
You wouldn't have done that because you were in it. So 100%. To stop and work on it, you were 100%. Able to pause and then take huge leaps in your business.
100%. And I know this is the whole pandemic has been tragic for a lot of people that have lost lives. But as an entrepreneur, this was an opportunity to take advantage. And the people that haven't taken advantage is because they're playing the victim card. And you can never play the victim card. You just got to keep readjusting yourself, replaying your cards, and just keep moving forward, right? So I love everything you're doing. And it's, we talked before to win air. Like my biggest thing as an entrepreneur is to impact fathers that are entrepreneurs. And I love that you said you focus on moms and entrepreneurs.
Hey, we've got both sides covered.
It's amazing how you're impacting. And I love your aspirations because you got the energy, you have the smile, you're passionate about it, and you know what's going to happen, right? As long as you put your mind to it, you know what's going to happen. So one thing you're talking about your daughter and impacting her, I just wanted to talk about this is with my kids, there's so many things I try to teach my kids to prepare them for the real world. I'm trying to teach them how to be entrepreneurs, right? Like I'm teaching them sales, how to sell themselves constantly. We do as a family once a month, we call it fear day or something. I find something they're scared of and I make them do it. And I'm a strong believer. Amazing. I'm a strong believer that always said this is fear is taught by parents. And it's always don't touch that oven. Don't run down the stairs. It's this constant protection of a parent that puts this caption, almost this shell around their children, which puts fear in them. And they grow up to fear things. They grow up to fear challenges because they see people failing, whether it's on TV, through their friends. So I focus on teaching them not to fear. And if I could grow and build this in them as children, when they get older, they're going to be able to take more chance to do stuff like that. So I think it's a big part of parenthood is getting your children not to fear taking chances. Yeah. And it's something I push and I stride all the time. And I'm also, as a parent, I don't, when I'm talking about even protection, I'm very straight with my kids. And I say, listen, there's a lot of mean people in this world. They're going to be mean to you. They're going to try to put you down, especially my son, because he had CP, cerebral palsy. And for the longest time, he was wearing braces. And I made him sure that he knew how to respond when somebody would question his braces or question why he walked a certain way. And that has always built his confidence. So I've always focused on just building their confidence. So they have this, they walk with their chest up and they're proud of who they are. And then at the same time too, they're fearless. They're not scared to walk into a room. They're not. My daughter, a year and a half ago, we were playing around with public speaking and all the stuff. I was joking around with her and she had a little presentation in the school in front of her class with 20 people. And actually on my storyline, you'll see it. She had to do a presentation in front of 20 people and she was so scared to do it. So I sat with her, I trained her, and I taught her. And mentally, I went through about 2 weeks of preparing her. And I said, you know what? We're going to enter something. And she ended up entering a contest with all these schools. And it was 1,800 kids, and she finished third place out of 1,800 kids doing public speaking, a speech.
Oh, I have children.
So, and it's just that
but you can equate that to adults, because a lot of those listening, like I just did some Facebook Live training last month, and I can't tell you how many people are just like, I'm so afraid. This is funny. I don't even think I've said this anywhere yet. So I finished college undergrad off campus because it was too slow for me. I'm ADD. So I had a 3.9, whatever, something good. And the final semester, my senior year, it was all remote, sent everything in. So I didn't really have a relationship with the teacher. Final class, I get a D. And guess what the D was in? Video. And I've made millions by being in front of a camera. So no matter, and I just don't even know who that teacher is, but I wish I could just like send her like a link to something, right? Like my reel or something. But it's so funny that you said that about your daughter. Like all of you listening to this, you all have your thing. You have your thing that you've been carrying since you were a kid, that you're like made this up in your head that you're not good at something. Or the biggest thing I hear is like you're going through personal branding right now is like, well, who am I to have a brand, or who am I to, say that about myself on social media? The cool thing is it's fair game. Like anyone can come on right now and you can start building a brand, and building a personal brand isn't the gold digger girl. Building a personal brand is you. So who are you? How do you want to show up? Who do you want to serve? And what do you want to be known for? And it's awesome because you're going to focus on something either you're learning, like how I was learning social media and teaching it, or something you have experience in. I mean, online right now, homeschool, if you're like a mom rocking it, or, a dad who's like, cool, I found a way to build a business on the side while I'm, working at an executive job, like you can turn that into something. And I think we have to realize like we do have stuff. It's so cool that you're like actively like ahead of it with your kids, because a lot of us have to undo all the stuff that our parents, they didn't know any better, So we all have our things. And I think just whatever it is, like you said, face the fear. That fear is your guidance system. It's telling you this is actually the thing you need to lean into, because on the other side of it is greatness. It's not a bad thing. It's actually like literally, if you just follow your fear, I do it all the time. It's like my business plan. Follow the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that is the biggest thing is that you're hitting the nail on the head, right? It's the fear of failure. And people are so consumed with what people are going to think of them.
Absolutely.
And if you actually go through the right thing, I have an actually video, and it actually said, "Stop giving a shit what people think of you." That's actually a video I have on Instagram. And it's true. The minute you could actually separate and stop giving a shit what people think of you or worry about you or their thought process on what you're doing, then you'll be happy finally. It's just find that happiness, find that balance of just, I'm doing this for myself. If I feel it's right and I'm not hurting no one, then go right ahead and do it.
For it. Yeah. And sometimes we think it's all about like what we think people think of us in social media, but sometimes it's our spouse. A lot of people are trying to build their businesses and their spouses are like, is that even real? Like, what are you wasting your time on? And my husband just said, he goes, did you really have to tell everybody our budget was $80 for Christmas like 3 years ago? He goes, that's not true. I go, yes, it is. I go, it was $80 and we went to consignment shops. And I was so excited because I went in and got a bunch of stuff for the girls for Christmas and spent $36. And I sent you a text and I was so excited. And he goes, really? I go, yeah. He goes, do you really need to share that with people? I go, I do. He's like, oh, okay.
It's your story.
It's my story. And
I love it.
People watching need to go, Christmas is around the corner. That's our budget. Oh my gosh, she was there. And now look at her. Maybe I'll get out of this situation. Like I have to share that so people can see themselves in me. And it's uncomfortable sometimes, right? Like I had to have that conversation.
But those stories, honestly, Kimberly, those stories are who you are and what makes you and what's going to make your children. You're saying something right now that's resonating with me. And I just want to bring it up right now. And I never even told anybody this, but my parents are blue collar workers. Besides my grandfather, I'm the only other entrepreneur in my family tree. And I still remember till this day, every time it was about 3 weeks before Christmas, my parents used to take me and my sister, which is a little older than me, and we'd go to this warehouse down in Toronto. And this warehouse, you'd walk in and the children weren't allowed in this warehouse. It was a toy warehouse. So the children had to sit in a room. I'm 43, so I was probably 8 or 9. So you're talking about 30 something years ago. Yeah. We'd sit in a little room. You'd walk in, they give garbage bags to my parents, And then you go through this warehouse up and down these aisles, apparently, and you pick toys, and they're all toys from 2 years, 3 years, discontinued toys. So they're all in clearance. Like, so you get a toy for $30, you get it for $2, $3. And my parents on a budget, that's where they would do our Christmas shopping. And they would come back, they would throw the garbage bag in the trunk of the car. We would not see that trunk. We weren't allowed to see anything in there. And then the night before, we knew it was in there, obviously, as we got older. The night before, they would pack it, put it under the tree. So the bare fact that as a child, I didn't know whether the difference of if that was expensive or not. My mind was, it was my parents they loved me so much. They were doing whatever they could to buy me that gift.
Give you a good Christmas. Yeah.
And I always tell everybody this. Kids do not want materialistic items. They don't need items. They want love from your parents. And I think that's the biggest loss thing a lot of parents do. And I find this with entrepreneurs, and this frustrates me, is I'll be out with an entrepreneur business, whatever, we're out for the day, and they're like, oh, I'm going to buy this for my daughter. Why? She did this and this. And in my head, when my daughter accomplishes something, she wins a recital, she does something, to me, I rather, hey, Sierra, we're going to go that's a great job. Let's go hang out for the day. Let's go have lunch together. Let's go walk around the mall. I'll buy her something, but it's spend the day with me. I want to reward her with time. And I think a lot of parents don't reward their children with time. They reward them with gifts. And kids don't give a shit what they're getting. As long as you're there with them, that's all they care.
Yeah. And I don't know what your situation was like, but my parents are divorced. So my mom was working all the time, and we never saw her. And like, I love quality time, right? Like, that's important to me. And it's so interesting because like, one of the things that's been really a shift for me this year is that I work about 30 hours a week. I was working, 50, 60, 70 hours when I was working full time and building my business. Yeah. And now that I'm out of it, I'm like, that's why I do this, is because and like you, my team knows 3:00 till about 9:30. Don't plan on me messaging you back. Like, my whole audience knows that I don't go live then. I don't do anything then. I do it during the day. I get into mom mode, gymnastics, all that. And it's been so amazing to say, I get to choose how I build this. And I just had this in a group coaching call. Question: how do I get it so I'm not in front of my computer all the time? And I was like, you either need to, she goes, I know time blocking. I'm like, I don't think you do if you're in front of the computer all the time, but you might need you might need a virtual assistant. You might need some help, but we get to design this. And why are we doing this? We will justify it like, oh, I have to be in my office because I'm working and I got to create this thing, and ignoring our family all weekend. No, the whole reason we're doing this is to provide for our families. So we have to keep that clear, because it's easy. Like, I'm a workaholic, so it's easy for me to like justify it. And so it's been really, really great this year to make that shift, to be intentional of like, no, I get to choose when I'm working. And my staff is huge now. It was just one person last year. We have so many people on my team now, contractors that are doing it. I'm not the one that has to do everything, because I want to be with my family. And if you're listening, you're like, oh, I'm just so exhausted. Get some help, delegate, and spend the time with your family. Because you're right. Your kids are 12 and 14, mine are 4 and 6. Next time we talk, they're both going to be older. All of our kids are going to be older, right? Yeah. It's just flying by, and we need to make sure that we're
there's a statistic that says 80% of the time we spend over their kids is before the age of 18.
Oh,
you know that?
Chills. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna go get them out of school right now.
So it's so important to do that, and it's building the time. Like, it's funny that you're saying that about you had a single mom, and she worked a lot. Like, my dad worked for Ford Motors, so he would work 2 weeks day, 2 weeks night. Yeah, so 2 weeks day, 2 weeks night. So for 2 weeks a month, I want to see my father. It's just a normal thing. My mom worked crazy hours, so at 7, 8 years old, I was walking home, grabbing a sandwich, grabbing my bike, and going to play ball hockey or go out with my friends. I get home at night. So that time, you didn't spend that quality time with your family. But one thing I remember so clearly, there's two things. At Ford, back then, they used to be paid really, really well. Mm-hmm. And you would get time and a half for weekends, sometimes triple time for weekends. My dad never, as much as he needed the money, never worked a weekend. He was home every weekend.
Oh, that's really
and one thing I remember, and this is one thing I do with my kids too now, is every summer he would block his vacation through the summer. He would take 2 weeks for Christmas. He had 6 weeks vacation, 2 weeks for Christmas, and 4 weeks in the summer. And those 4 weeks he'd block off, and we'd jump in the car and go on a road trip and go to Cape Cod. And we did that for years and years and years, and spend rent a little beef. That's all I remember. The road trips, I try to insist in parents and dads, and I'm trying to teach this, is road trips are probably the most special thing you could do. They could be the most, when you're doing it, it's the shittiest time sometimes.
We go to a place that's 12 hours away.
I did a 24 last year. I did 24 hours. I did 24 hours back from Myrtle Beach. My son threw up twice in the car. We almost hit deer twice. It was the most crazy ride ever. We sit there and we talk about it all the time, laughing our heads off as a family. It's just it's these memories of being together, singing in the car, arguing in the car. It's just that family bond. So I'm a strong believer. I try to do 2 road trips a year. And I'm a strong believer in road trips because there's nothing like sitting in the car for 12 or 14 hours with your family because you get to know them better than anything. So I love that part is road trip. And I got that from my parents, right?
So cool. And it's those are the things that kids remember, right? They remember those memories.
100%.
I think, and again, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Most of the people I talk to, it's their kids, or some of them will say they want to retire because, again, moms want to retire their spouse, right? Their husband's working so hard and they want to retire him. Why? Because they want to be with them. They want time freedom. So we have to be intentional. That's why I'm a huge advocate of mastering your calendar. Is you are in control. And it's just like you said about not being a victim. I think there's a lot of that right now. People are feeling like victims, and I get it. But is that really helping you or serving you? Probably
no,
not.
At all.
So let's shift to, I'm in the driver's seat. I'm going to co-create the life that I want. Like, let's do this.
Let's talk about your calendar. So you said that's a huge part of who you are with the calendar. So how do you imply that with your clients? So one of my books that's the best-selling, it was #1 on Amazon. It's called Why Balance is BS.
Okay. And so we have the solution that there's balance, right? And there isn't. I mean, there's seasons for things. I had a girlfriend who was like, and I said something with her son in college. And I said, she's like, I'm letting my business slack. I go, no, you're not. You are in a season of crisis where you're mom. Your #1 job is mom, and you need to be there for your son. He needs you right now. How are you putting this guilt on yourself? So we have this constant like tug and pull and all the things, but I teach people to prioritize what's important to them. I mean, they want to work out, right? They want to meal prep. They want to meditate. They want to do all these things, right? But they're not putting it on their schedule. So they're letting their day run them. And, even with everyone being home, all my people got less productive because it was unstructured time. They were like, whoa, like, I don't know what to do with all this. So when you actually time block, and all that means is saying, okay, for this hour, I'm going to plan out all my social media content for the week, right? I'm going to get it all scheduled. So I produce like 30 some videos per month. How am I able to do that while working very limited hours? Because I time block it and I plan it all out ahead of time. So get it planned ahead. Don't let your day run. You should know what you're doing every single day before it starts. Don't you agree?
I swear to God, we're like twins. Everything I do, Kimberly, is on a schedule, and I preach schedule. My weeks are planned. My months are planned almost. So everything I get a blank calendar, and I like handwriting stuff. I know I use my phone, but I love, I got my, I literally, okay, I'll go through that in a second, but I literally set my schedule. My first priority is my kids, their schedule, my family schedule. So I put it on my schedule, and that's my times for the family. And then I put my work schedule, and then whatever block empty times. So if I have an hour block here, an hour block there, empty times, that's not wasted time. That's not just sit around doing nothing time. That is now, okay, you know what? I haven't reached out to these business people in 6 months. Let me just do a phone call. Let me plan something else out. Let me think of, I use those times to catch up with people, catch up with friends, make a phone call. Like I make sure, even those blank times, if they're during the day, I'll utilize that for something else to get ahead, or I'll think of something ahead of my schedule and bump it up. But everything I do is schedule. And I'm a strong believer in do lists. I still hand write a do list every single day. Yeah, I'm right in front of you. Every single day I hand write a do list, and I go through it. And whatever I don't accomplish on my do list, because it's that sense of accomplishment. You're checking it off. I got this done. What a great day. If I miss 2 things, okay, cool. They're bumped on the top of the next list the next day, and I'll prioritize it. And it just that's how my days go. Even on weekends. Yep, it goes. So when I wake up in the morning, throughout the night, I'll email it. When I'm home at night, I won't physically write it. So I'll email myself. So in the morning, when I open my computer, I go through all my emails and add. Got my schedule for the day. I'm ready to start my day.
But then it's like your mind is cleared, right? You're not 100%. Having that constant, like you're like thinking about the things. I email myself all the time too. It's just funny that you do that. Yeah. But the resistance I get with that is people will go, it's so like strict and rigid. This is the thing. It might seem weird to schedule unstructured free time. But when you do it, while you're in that unstructured free time, you're not thinking about all the other stuff because it's on the calendar. It's done. It's there. Yeah. So when I'm in this podcast with you right now, I'm not thinking about, Halloween and getting the girls ready this weekend for that time of this recording. I'm thinking about you in this conversation. So if you can start to shift into this mode of like, it's actually going to allow you more freedom. And this is the thing, I can sleep really good at night because I know I gave 110%, whether it was with my kiddos all day for the weekend, or it was like yesterday was a huge content creation day. I slept good last night knowing I rocked it, man. I gave it my best. And so instead of always feeling behind the 8 ball and scattered, and you have all these things you want to get to, why not plan them out? I have 2021 planned out. What does that do for me? It allows me to point and shoot, right? Okay, you do this, you do that, all the people who's helping me make this happen. And I'm going to be able to make it be more confident. And it goes right back to confidence. It always is. How confident are you about the way you're going about your day, running your business, as you're showing up as a mom or a dad? Like, how confident are you? And when you have that confidence, you get momentum, you get excitement, you create this like synergy, and then it's just, you're on fire.
Yeah, 100%. It's so, it's being able to not stress out. I mean, there's always things that are going to pop up in your schedule. That's just common, right? Example, us today, we're supposed to be an hour. It's funny because I had an empty block. I'm like, okay, I just switched it around. And as we're talking, before we went on air, I was making some personal videos for myself.
Awesome. Good job.
I'm like, okay, well, let's flip it around. When did you start writing your first book?
It was 2012, and I was doing a lot of public speaking. So I used to go across North America speaking. I was on TV hundreds of times, and everyone kept saying, what do you eat? What do you eat? And I was like, I just eat real food. Like, I don't count calories. I don't diet. And so I wrote a book about, basic stuff, because I was shocked. Like, they're like, is it okay to eat a banana? Like, people have no clue. So I just wrote a book on like eating and all that, put some recipes in it. And that was my first book.
Yeah, that's awesome. So mommy life, with the balance, do you have any advice you could give to other moms out there of how, like you said, there's obviously scheduling, but what other stuff that you could figure out balance wise to help moms?
So a lot of times there's like, my kids are home, I can't go live. I'm like, Elise, so we talked about Addison's my leader. She's already like has a conference planned out. She's like, Mommy, you're going to play the drums and there's going to be a cheetah. I'm like, okay, sounds good, honey. But my 4-year-old is a strong-willed blessing. So while I was live, I do a live show every Monday on Facebook. My 4-year-old was home and she said, Mommy, I have to go poop. While I'm live, I'm like, you guys hold on. And I run around the corner, help her out, come back. I'm still talking. I'm like, okay, just rolling with it. Mom, I'm done. Hold on, you guys, run out, come back. They loved it. They were messaging me, oh my gosh, seeing you in action, you're real. I'm like, yeah, like this is what we do, right? So involve your kids as much as you can. Let them be on your videos, let them pop in, let them take pictures with you. So then they start to understand that it's a constructive thing, that they see what I'm doing. They see the cards that come in the mail, the gifts that come in the mail. They see people on Zoom. They're like, hey girls, like all my people know my girls. So what that does for them is then they start to be okay in front of the camera. They feel confident talking on video. They start to see, they have little jewelry businesses and are selling things to, Addison has a YouTube channel. Like they start to see like, oh, creative expression. Addison does videos on confidence and you can do it. And God placed your dream in your heart. I'm like, what? So they're like little mini me's, right? So it's exciting because I can see like at such a young age, they're going to go about their life a lot different than I did.
Yeah.
And so stop trying to be all ready and have the perfect office and all the things. Start to show people your real life now. And I'm telling you, the more real you are and genuine and just off the cuff, the quicker you're going to build your tribe because they see themselves in you and they're like, she's just like me. If you've been in church before and you feel like the pastor's talking to you and you're like, this sermon is totally for me. That's what you want them to feel like when you're on camera, like you are talking to them. So get that person in your mind of who you're trying to connect with and let them see your real life world and what it's like. And you will build your tribe so fast. You'll remember this conversation and go, oh my gosh, they were right. Like it really does work. And it's fun because it takes all the pressure off.
I love you're saying that because I'm kind of struggling with that right now because I'm trying to be as real as I can through Instagram and I do videos myself. If you actually see a video, I was talking with one of my friends that was on our podcast, Adam Jablin. And I was just talking about my son. And actually I just posted the other day and it's just me like gleaming about my son. And I'm like, oh, I just want to hug him. And I didn't know we were recording this. And then I'm like, oh my God, this has been all recording. And then I actually put it as a clip out there. And a lot of people are like, you're a business coach. You shouldn't be doing that stuff. I'm like, that's me. That's me. And then a lot of people are like, you should be posting this way and and they're trying to give me advice. And I'm like, but that's not who I am. And I can't just be unreal. It bothers me. And I'm like, I'd rather take longer to build myself, but build who I am. And and that's one thing, like I said, a lot of people were trying to give me advice and trying to go against what you're saying, which I appreciate. Yeah. It's hard.
I've had a lot of advice from people and I didn't do what they said.
Oh, 100%.
And it's made me a lot of money because they were doing the same thing, like, well, this and this. And I'm like, it doesn't feel right. And so I just follow my gut. That's literally my plan. Like, there's not a real plan here. I'm just constantly God, intuition, divine, download. Okay, follow that. And for you, like, you're not, you have a presence about you and posture, but you're not intimidating. Like right away, I was like, oh, this guy's like so cool. Like, I want to get to know him. Yeah. And I think that the other coaches out there, they do come off like there's a wall and there's this, and that's not, I don't know. I just feel like it's going to serve you to be the way that you are.
Cross my fingers. We'll see. Like I said, I'm confident in what I know. It just is getting out there and talking to individuals and getting out there with yourself. There's a few things I always ask, a couple questions at the end, but I will go back and forth. But if something were to happen to you today, in a few words, how would you want to be described or remembered by your closest little network?
I would want them to say, man, she spoke truth and light. She made me see stuff that I didn't even know was possible. And she was right. And I'm so glad that she spoke that vision to me, because I don't think I would be where I am without her painting that picture for me and really believing in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Sweet, short, honest. Superpower. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
A superpower going along with it, the same thing. My superpower would be allowing people to see how great they are, because they
I think you're doing that now, aren't you?
It's my mission every single day. I have the spiritual gift of encouragement. Yeah. So that's like my thing.
If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what other field would it always be? In the fitness and health field? Do you think you'd always be in?
Yeah. So I have PhDs in natural health and holistic nutrition because I was really sick, and, my brother was in and out of the hospital and different things. And I definitely would be in the healing space. So I've always just kind of had that about me. Like the Medicine Woman, if you ever saw, we're similar in age, I'm 40. So you remember that show, The Medicine Woman? Yeah. I just love that. She had her satchel and she'd whip out cool things to heal people. Like, I just love that there's these elements that are already here that we can tap into. We don't need to, search for medications and all the things. I love that there's just so much stuff that God's already given us. Yeah, I love that part of it. With your marriage, is your husband part of the business? Does he help out? Does he have his own venture, his own business? He'll help me. No, he works for the state. We live in Texas and he loves his job and he's really good at it. But if I need help behind the scenes, he'll help me with things. And he's always asking, but I said, my gift is I want you to go live with me one day. And he's like, I'll do anything else you want, but I'm not doing that. So that's my big ultimate goal. I'm going to manifest it. It's happening. He's going to go live with me. It's funny that we're very similar. I've been married for 17 years, a little bit longer than you. And my wife is very independent, and I appreciate that so much. She's very independent. She has her own job. She has her own career, and it works for us. I mean, we've been married for 17 years, Kimberly, and we don't even have a bank account together. She has making it work. She has her bills. I have my bills. I love it. And it's balanced, and we never argue about money. We never argue about nothing. We have a very good relation, and 17 years later, we still laugh, which is probably the most important thing. We can still sit there and laugh together, which is right. I see that in a lot of, and especially with entrepreneurs, the main thing, it's such a high divorce rate because they're so driven, and their purpose, their baby, their vision becomes their business, and everything else becomes second. So being able to find that balance like you're doing, and what I'm trying to do as well, trying to find that balance and keep a healthy marriage and keep your time with your kids is amazing. So I applaud you for that, right? So you're doing amazing with that. With everything else that is going on business-wise and all that, how many employees do you currently have, or how many people are you networking out? How big is it grown right now? Yeah, so I have 3 full-time people that work for me and 4 part-timers. And then I have 4 coaches in my program. And we had one girl last year in she's my operations director, but she started off, she was my grocery shopper. You know how you can hire people? And she's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm moving. And I said, I actually need an assistant online. And 5 hours a week. Would you be open to starting that? She's like, I've always wanted to do that. Cause she had been an entrepreneur, a painting business for 20 years. And that's how she started. She's going to be, making 6 figures this year. She's going to be when we restructure next year, she'll be the president of the company.
That's amazing. That's
5
crazy.
hours a week, my grocery shopping girl. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And she's
built this with me. She's totally built the whole business.
Did you obviously with your mentoring? So your 4 coaches, did they come through your program?
Yeah, all of them. And every single person that works for me, I found internally were a student, a gold digger, a follower. I know everybody that, I brought on board. I haven't had to hire blind or anything like that.
That's amazing. Have you had any mentors for yourself that have helped you, guide you?
Yeah, for sure. I actually was able to co-teach a course last year with John Maxwell. So they picked some ambassadors in the network marketing space because he's building his legacy now. He's in his 70s. And I went through all of his trainings and all of that. And it's really helped me. There was actually some stuff was being said about Rachel Hollis recently. People were being really, really negative about her. And I thought to myself, because, you make a decision, are you going to get in that or you're not? And I thought to myself, what would John Maxwell do? Like I always go to that because he's just a legend. He's written a book a year for 50 years. He's the number one person on leadership, just an amazing person. And I thought, I'm always gonna rise up. Like I'm always gonna go, how can I be the light, right? I'm not gonna get into that kind of stuff. I think he's made a huge impact on me, and my goal is to write a book a year. So
You are, huh?
Yeah. So I'm on track to do that. And
do you have a ghost? Do you work with a ghostwriter? Because
I write it all myself.
Okay. Because I just got a publishing deal right now for 2 books. I have my first book coming out in January.
Awesome.
It's a lot of work on top.
Oh.
It's a lot of work.
Night. There's no, and I worked with the publisher, this last one, The Art of Self-Discipline, released a few months ago. And it was so hard working with the publisher and deadlines because I'm used to just writing in the car on the way to our place in the mountains. It was hard.
So it's a lot of back and forth.
Oh, and then they're like, your tone. And I'm like, my tone, this is me.
Okay. So I'm struggling with that right now, Kimberly.
Oh,
I'm struggling with that
hard.
Because I just got a section of the, so they re-edited the first 4 chapters of the book, and I got it back. And I'm like, you just changed half my stuff. And I'm reading it now. I'm like, this is not me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is okay. Yeah. So I'm not the only one going crazy here. It is. Huh?
Oh no. So the next one, I said, I want to meet with you for first write-up refusal because I don't want to do that again. And they're like, we release you. You can go ahead and write your next book because it was pretty much written. So that'll be coming out in the spring. I will not be doing that again. No. So it's different. I worked with a different publisher previously, and they just took my book and published it. This one, I was writing the book that they wanted to write. So it kind of depends on the situation. There's different experiences that you can have, but I did not have a good experience. I don't want to be put in a box when I'm writing.
Yeah, I'm finding that right now is just it's that expression, because I'm trying to tell the first book I wanted to be more of a lesson book, teaching and whatnot, and then the second book I wanted more of the story of my son and our journey and stuff together. So yeah, so the first one, we're just going through stage 1 still, and it's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
I've self-published on Amazon several times, and I'll keep doing that because once you have your audience built, which you have, and your podcast is doing phenomenal as well. Yeah. Once you have your audience built, that's how we got 2 of them to come to hit number 1 on Amazon's new release list. 2 of them I did back to back. It was because of my audience. I had it all ready to go. I was like, guys, this is when it's going. With the reviews and then buying it is how it hit that number. So I'll just self-publish. Some people do, but you don't make a ton of money with books. It's just the book in the hand, and
that's all it is.
Yeah. So if you can do it yourself, and you're obviously in a contract now, but I loved self-publishing. I've been really happy with Amazon.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Even going forward, just to look at the future. Like I said, my first book is more just, be honest, it might even most likely be a giveaway to build the business. Yes. And whatnot, right? Just the branding yourself.
It's huge though. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. Interesting. I was going through it, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, and I was like, I wanted to reach out to a couple of people and ask them, like, oh, is this normal that I feel restricted? I feel like my story is not being told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I went through that too. And I was like, okay, this is how you want me to write. Okay. Got it. So no, I can't just talk like my normal self. So I had to shift the rest of the book, and I just did it to get it done. But I'm like, noted, I will not do that again.
This has been amazing. I greatly appreciate you coming on. This is, I would like to have you back. I'll look at your schedule. I know you said, it'll be when our kids are adults, hopefully not that long. So So I'll have you on. Basically, before we go, what is your podcast about?
It's called The Goal Digger Girl, and it's all about online strategies and simple systems to build a business on social media, because that's how I built. And it's all just short, kind of bite-sized content. A lot of them solo, and then sometimes I'll interview people on it. But I'm on it by myself a lot.
But it's more of an educational platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So awesome. I'm very tactical. Like I always bring strategy in, but Instagram stories, how to get a lot of views on your Facebook Lives. Like I'm very tactical in my teaching.
Okay. Very cool. I got to check that out.
Thank
you so much, Kimberly. On all our show notes, I'm going to put the podcast, links to podcasts, links to your books, links to you as a coach. You're doing amazing things as a mom, as a wife, and as an entrepreneur. So, and you have so many layers. Like it's so many layers to you. And as you're talking, like you said, you're doing public speaking 2012. It's when you just look at your Instagram account, it looks like you're just, like you said, you're focused on your coaching. There's so many other layers to you, and people have to realize your journey. It's been a journey to get here, and you've put your hours in, and it's obviously coming together beautifully. So congratulations on all that. And I appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we go?
When you guys watch this episode or listen to it, take a screenshot, throw it in your stories, and tag me, and I'll shout you out. It's the Goal Digger Girl on Instagram, and it's GOAL, the Goal Digger Girl.
We'll put all the links
Jeff on it, and then we'll give you a shout out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, hon.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Kimberley Olson, the one and only Goal Digger Girl, for taking time from her busy schedule to be a guest on our show. If you guys enjoy this podcast as much as I did, please tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word. We're trying to build something special here. Leave a review. 5 stars would be absolutely amazing. Until next week, everyone, keep moving forward.